A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to uLaw CPD webinar. Topic for today's session is Disbursements Demystified. I hope everyone's joined in. I would like to give about a couple minutes for people to join in for the audio. In the meantime, I would be sharing the details for all of those who are attending CPD to get the attendance. So the link will be shared in the chat window. Thank you. Please note that I have entered the attendance link and topic for today's session on the chat window. I request all of you to make a note of it. I would be sharing the same at the end of the session so that ones who are joining in late could make use of it. Thank you. Just giving it another couple minutes as I see more people joining in. This webinar is a CPD session, 1 hour of CPD for professionals and CPD credits. Please use the attendance link without fail so that if there's any issue coming up with receiving the CPD credits, we would be able to help you with your attendance. Kindly make a note of the topic for the CPD credits. uLaw provides only professionalism CPD credits and not any substantiated. The ones joining in a little later, I'm going to post the topic here once again with the attendance link as you're all joining in. Before I get started with the webinar, I will be posting it once again over here, and kindly use the chat window for any sort of questions that I would be able to take up only towards the end of the session. As it's a CPD session, I would request all of you to use the chat window to write down your questions. Do not hesitate. It's a very nice topic. Besides a CPD topic, it's very helpful for your practice. So I'm hoping more viewers to ask questions, any sort of queries. Do not hesitate. I will be here from 3 to 3:15 to answer all your questions. Perfect. So quickly getting started with today's topic and the agenda. Disbursements Demystified. Nothing but analyzing how disbursements work, what are disbursements, how you can claim back from your client, get the reimbursements done, and how you can spend for it. What are different types of disbursement? Are they basically general nature or to be spent from trust? What are the ones that can be spent from trust, and what are expectations of law society when it comes to disbursements, how to maintain it, what needs to be done in order to keep yourself compliant to incur a disbursement and get it reimbursed. So all of these is what we're going to be seeing in today's webinar. For any of you who cannot hear me clear, please do put it on the chat window and I would be happy to share with you the phone coordinates. In the meantime, understanding in layman term what is a disbursement. Disbursement is nothing but a simple expense that you have incurred on behalf of your client at your law office. It could be a simple courier charges, maybe a court filing fee or a travel expense, anything that you look forward to claiming back from your client. So you need to record it in the books of accounts, making sure that every penny you've spent that you're looking to recover from them, ensuring that you invoice it. When you invoice the legal fee, you should always bifurcate, clearly show in the invoice that this is a disbursement and not part of your legal fee. Many of us fail to do that because it's easier to add that extra $100 to your legal fee and show it all as a lump sum fee to your client than what Law Society expects you to do. Is there's a clear division between legal fee and disbursement, and please show that on your invoice separately so that your client understands this goes into your legal fee part, whereas the other portion is your disbursement, which is only a recovery of the expense. Hence, from the accounting perspective, when you are drawing your income statement, this does not come under your income because this is only recovery of expenses, the expense that you have already made on behalf of your client. So need to maintain proper books and need to record in the books to balance the accounts when you spend it, invoice it, and recover the expense. There can be different types of disbursements, but at the same time, there are also different methods of payments. Whatsoever it is, record when the disbursement was paid, how it was paid, what it was paid for, whether, it was paid for simple printing charges, or it was paid for a complicated file searches, or even, maybe the court filing fee, etc. So ensure that you take key steps on what is the disbursement, how it was paid for, and the reason that the expense was made on behalf of your client. It's important that you record them under the respective client because you do not get confused with the client and the matter that you have spent it for, and you make sure to enter it under the respective client and their matter. Along with the legal fee, you raise an invoice, of course, with a bifurcation between the legal fee and disbursement. If it is paid from the general, then you will have to raise an invoice and collect the payment in order to pay back to yourself. If you have paid from your pocket, that is. If you have paid it from the general account, you just decide the portion of the invoice as to which is the disbursement. And when you send the invoice, the client pays you back and it becomes a recovery of expense. Now, there are different types of disbursement. How would you pay for it? Why is it that some of those disbursements can only be done from general and not from trust? Why not both? It's very simple. I know there are too many lines here for you to understand, but one simple line that I always tell my clients to follow is that if you are charging your client a disbursement, please first understand whether there is a profit motive in that disbursement. Whether you are charging the same amount that you incurred, or are you charging anything above that? If you are charging anything above the amount that you have incurred, please do not use trust account to make that payment. If you know that you are going to charge your client a little higher amount than what you have incurred also, kindly use general or credit card or your own pocket. Because when you pay it from trust, it is understood that you're spending the client's money and we do not want you to make any profit on it. Whereas when you make it from the general or any other account other than trust, you could simply record the expense with the markup value and get the reimbursement or recovery done into your general or credit card or own pocket. When you're paying out of your own pocket, now, again, there is a point where you will have to reimburse yourself. It is not only that the recovery of expense part over here. Once the expense has been recovered, you will have to move the money from general to your own pocket because you have paid it using your own pocket, personal pocket. While you use the trust, there are only certain type of expenses that can be paid from the trust because there is going to be no markup value involved in there. That includes court fee or any other kind of fee which is easier to be paid from trust account as there is going to be no markup involved in there. And when paid from trust, you don't have to recover the expense because you are typically using your client's money. So there's no recovery of expense into the picture, but it is still called disbursement because you're spending it on behalf of the client. It is not any other expense. It's not an office expense. It's not a personal expense. There's not any other expenses, but purely your client expenses that are recovered from them. When paid from trust account, you don't have to recover the expense. It is not your money after all, so just show it as expense from trust. At the end of the day, this will reduce the amount of bookkeeping required. Because when you're paying it out of the trust account, your requirement to maintain accounts or the books is definitely much lesser than when you're paying it out of the general or your own pocket. But however, when you're paying it out of general, that is why many of them prefer trust because it is straightforward, but at the same time, you cannot use it as a markup value. So if you're using it for any markup, please remember to use the general or business credit card or own pocket. So you get to record the expense with all the information, including date and amount with appropriate taxes, method of payment, which client and assign it to the respective matter, and record as if the disbursement was paid from the bank or credit card or own pocket, and make sure to raise the invoice to recover the expense from your client. When to recover the disbursement and how should you do it? Before raising invoice, please make sure that you have recorded the expense information with all of the necessary details. That includes date, amount, pre-tax, post-tax, whether tax exempt, and record if there is anything with the mark up or mark down. Now, markdown is very, very rare, but sometimes we do want to do a markdown if you want to issue a discount to them. So you don't have to worry about issuing a discount separately. You can also use a markdown concept in there. You do that with proper taxes along with it. And raise an invoice. Once you raise an invoice, very simply, if the money is lying in the trust, you're going to transfer the money from trust to the general, specific for legal fee and disbursement. And if there is no money in the trust, of course, your client is going to make a client payment into the general account, and you record it under the general. There's no need to transfer anything here. However, if you've paid from your personal account, there's one more step involved in here, which is to move the money from general to your personal account to pay yourself or the third party for the expense that was incurred, whoever paid for it, rather. Make sure you have all of those journals and ledgers. Disbursement journals and ledgers are one thing that Law Society would really want you to maintain, as it is part of the accounting compliances. So make sure you have all of those handy from time to time, and that should be one of the things that is helpful for you to, use for the audit in case required. Now, types of disbursements, as we saw in the earlier slides, where, some of them come straight out of trust. Some of them can be used from trust, can be used from general. Some of them are purely only general sake. Like, for example, which you see here are, if it's something billable, most of the time any third party or something where there is no profit margin involved, you can use it from trust. But if there's any profit margin involved, then do it from the general. Any unit rate, like photocopies and, other things that involves unit rate, please use only general. Any mileages, which is where you want to reimburse or recover expense for travel or, gas, please use mileage option, which is only for general. Travel time, again, only general. Recovery of expenses on actuals. Note the word actual, which can be done from both trust and general. Recovery of expense with profit margin, only general. So the difference between actuals and profit margin, actuals is exactly the amount that you've incurred, which you can use from both trust and general. However, the one with profit margin is there's a markup here. So you don't want to use the trust, you want to use the general and recover the expense later into your general account. Outsourced consultancy on actuals, both trust and general. If you have any outsource for the third party and it is an actual amount, then both trust and general. Anything that is actual, you can use both trust and general. There is no only trust concept here, as you all see in the types of disbursements, because not every practitioner would have, not every legal practitioner would have a trust account, but I'm sure they'll have a general account. So outsourced consultancy with profit margin, only general can be used over there. Now, ledgers that need to report disbursements. There are client trust ledgers. There are client general ledgers. We also have disbursement journals, which is more intricate, gives you more details. But let's look at the ledgers first. Ledgers where, during audits, the disbursement ledgers, both trust and general, are reviewed. You get to, because like I said, some could have only trust, some can be done from both trust and general. So you have both client's trust ledger and general ledger. Every transaction disbursed directly needs to be recorded in disbursement ledgers. You will have to ensure that they pass through the ledgers based on the type of transaction. It is maintained in the trust or general. Anywhere you see any transfer made from trust to the general, you will see there is a movement between trust and the general. There is a receipt and a disbursement, and any client's general ledger, you would see that the particulars have more, which is expenses, fee, and other taxes, particulars, etc. Now, when you look into both trust and general, one thing that is missing in trust obviously is the HST or any GST or PST, any taxes portion, because the billing happens only in the general area. So you would see the taxes portion covered under the general ledger. Any payment that you've received on account, either it's trust transfer, then it clearly shows under the both trust and the general ledger. If it's a payment that you've directly received into the general, then you will be seeing it only under the general ledger. Based on the type of transaction, it is maintained under either trust or general or both. Each ledger has a running balance. Now, this running balance helps you to know what is the current balance into that particular client's trust account. The following samples that you see at the bottom are the trust and the general ledgers. Very important here is the particulars with the details. So whenever you write down a description in uLaw or any other program, make sure that you elaborate to a certain extent that the ledgers can be more meaningful to it or can add more meaning to it. And when you are adding the fee with taxes or without taxes, please make sure that you're adding in the details with the tax exemption, if there is anything. If not, the automatic taxes for your provinces gets added into the ledger too. Disbursements in fee book. As you all know, I'll come back to the journal part, but disbursements in fee book, if you have both legal fee and disbursement for a particular matter, the fee book records both of it. And when an invoice is raised, you can recover it from the client, and fee book records all of the details such as invoice numbers, total before taxes, total after taxes, legal fee and disbursement portion bifurcated, which is the most important part. So fee book records the invoice numbers and all of the details associated with the client that were collected for both fees and disbursements. Following sample that you see at the bottom shows you how a fee book looks. Now, fee book again is part of the accounting compliance document, so you would be definitely needing to raise one. As part of the disbursement journal is one of the most important things, where you will have to produce it during the audits, and this journal is review. Journals are a single type of activity. It is only one type of activity in which it doesn't do both. Journals also record the method of payment, purpose, etc. Journals or records of a single type of activity. Disbursement journals are maintained for both trust and general. Now, if you look at the journal closely, you don't see an outward and an inward, because the journal has receipts separately and disbursement separately. So you have a general receipt journal and general disbursement journal and trust disbursement journal. So let's look at only the disbursement, not the receipt right now. You have two separate journals for disbursements. One is a trust disbursement journal, and another one is a general disbursement. Now, the trust disbursement journal shows you the disbursements you have made from trust, may be a transfer from trust or may be a direct debit from trust. You will have to record them under the purpose of the payment and with the amount, and you will be able to see them all under one disbursement journal. Once you do that, you will also see the details under the journal, such as invoice numbers, anything that connects with the invoices, any method of payment with the check number, payments, etc., and the amount with the purpose of payment, which is what they pick up from the description. So why I'm stressing upon these things is because when you draw a journal or when you generate a journal, you need to be ensuring all of these little details have been entered in the respective columns for you to generate the purpose of payment. When you look at the general disbursement journal, we have one additional column, as we already saw in the ledgers, is the HST or the taxes portion, respectively. And along with that is your method of payments. A lot of the times we tend to miss out on the smaller portions, such as the method of payment or the purpose of the payment. Just go on with the description and keep it very short, kind of thing. But at the same time, it's very important to add in purpose and method of payment so that you can follow up with those disbursements. If there's any issues in the future, you can look into the particular method of payment and understand what the issue is over there. I'd like to take a quick pause here to see if there are any questions. I don't think there are any questions here. I hope everyone's been following me, but if there's any question, please use the chat window at any time. I'd be happy to repeat the part. And I'm also going to be taking questions towards the end of the session, so feel free to have your questions noted down and enter it on the chat window. I'm also entering the attendance link with the topic of the hour today. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I don't think the copy of the presentation is available. However, this session is being recorded and it will be available on the YouTube channel as early as Monday. So if you're interested to go over this presentation once again, I request you all to please visit the YouTube channel for going over the features. Now, quickly, benefits of using a legal practice management system and how you can manage disbursements using that. And then I'm going to be jumping into uLaw to show you all how different types of disbursements work, because I'm sure a lot of you are keen on seeing how it works in uLaw. And being uLaw representative, I'd love to show you all how it works too. Now, many of us use different types of platforms of, for using your accounting purposes. You will have to record these events as and when they happen, as you know that it is important to add in all your data into the respective financial records and have it very clean and possibly close to your bank records too, and maintain all of the above documents that we discussed so far, including bank records and financial statements such as income and expense, disbursement journals, ledgers. Everything needs to be maintained as close as possible, and then the reconciliation becomes a very simple task. And end of the day, by maintaining all these, you're being 100% compliant, and also accountability is high, and you're able to do more of analysis on how everything works. It's also easy to use for you going forward. Most important of all is that you're able to gauge your firm's health on how you have spent your money into respective disbursements, or is it more of office expenses? You'll be able to understand how everything works from that perspective. Yes, you can click on the link and submit your attendance. Perfect. So let me go into uLaw to show you all how disbursements work. So first of all, you obviously need to have a client in place added into the program. Then you need to have a matter. Once you have the matter opened, there's this tiny disbursements and retainer tab where you can add different types of disbursements. Now we discussed there are some disbursements that are directly made from general. Some of them are directly made from trust. Some of them are made from your own pocket. So depending upon what type of disbursement it is, you can just simply add them in there. Let's quickly click on Add New Disbursement. Pay disbursements from general, cash, other accounts. Now, if you are using disbursements from general, this is the most simplest option that you could be using. Right here, you have photocopies that you can add in. Let's say you have photocopies for $30 that you have incurred as an expense. You have not used your own printer. You probably got it printed from a UPS store or maybe, the library view. So you have added in there what you want to charge your client on the top. And at the bottom, let's say you only spent $15 plus taxes, of course. If it's a tax exempt portion, then you can clearly use the tax exempt bar right here. If it's not, please make sure to uncheck the box appropriately. So this is what I talk about the markup value when we were doing the presentation. Whenever you have a disbursement that you think you're going to charge for a higher amount to your client, so the top portion is what you're charging your client and the bottom portion is what you have incurred. So the part or the value that you've incurred is much lesser than what you're charging your client. Hence, never use trust account. So when you know that this type of an expense is something that you want to charge more than what you've incurred, which is the markup value, come in and click on Add Expense from General. That way you are safe and you're doing it from the general. And the best part is you have top and the bottom portion and both are done at the same time, including reporting into your general account. Now, I'd like to add more information. Now, if it was in a rush, we would rather just go and click on Save. But I'd like to specify to you all to add more information such as who it was paid to and the method of payment and the reference numbers. These come handy, especially when you're being audited. The auditor is going to look into it and obviously say that, okay, this is more of a genuine transaction, or they could even cross-verify it while they look into your bank records to see whether it matches with the method of payment or the reference numbers they see in there. So try and implement this. These are small things that you could really implement it in your practice, which is over the course will really be helpful for you and looks much more helpful when it's being reconciled even for your own internal audit purposes. So here I'm specifying my method of payment. Let's say I used my business credit card. So I can drop down, select the business credit card option. I even have the reference number, so I'm adding it right here. I can quickly go back and check everything looks okay. I want to add description. Yes, you could also do this. Now for photocopies, there's one more way you could add this. You have units. There's something called units, mileages, and actuals. I generally avoid using this because you might be confused between what portion to charge them, what portion to, get what is incurred. So the unit rate has to be always from the other one, even though you have over here. But if you're pretty clear as to what you have incurred and what you plan to charge them, you could go ahead and do that. And the expense amount can be also entered here. And you're charging them $50, you're probably entering more or less. And you can also enter the details and keep going on with the rest of the information too. So these are a couple of methods how you enter the general transactions. Now, besides that, you have something that you can directly withdraw from trust. Now, this is where we bring in the concept of court fee, filing fee, any other fee that does not involve any markup value, which means that this is directly the amount that goes out of your trust and there's no profit involved in here. So let's say I paid about $200, which is, the filing fee. You probably sent a check. And you can also print a check. This is an additional feature that I just wanted to go over. However, you can, so just imagine you entering all of those information within less than 30 seconds and have a check also ready. And yeah, that's used for printing a check. When you come back in here, look at the disbursement. There's no top or bottom portion here, unlike the general account, because you're spending only one amount and getting charged for the same amount and recovering the same amount from the client. As you all know that trust does not involve any markup value, I request you to keep that in mind. If you are planning to charge your client with any markup value, please use the general portion. Now you have different types over here as you go through. When you add in your disbursement, trust, pretty straightforward that we just did. From general, we already did the general cash other accounts. This is preliminarily what I would recommend to use for all of you, because if you want to charge the top portion, you can do that. Now, even for the printing copies, let's say that printing fee or printing charges. Okay, I just want to show you all one more thing. You're charging your client $20 plus taxes. It's, let's say, tax exempt. You're not reporting any expense at the bottom. You know why? Because you used your own office printer where you did not incur any expenses. Now you might ask me why you're not entering any expense here under the report expense column, because all of these are already incurred expenses in the sense your paper and ink that was used or the printer charges, whatever it is, those are all part of office expenses. They have been recorded under office expenses, hence at the report expense, it is zero. You have nothing to report, so you don't have to enter paid to, you don't have to worry about the method of payment, you don't have to worry about it. You're just simply charging your client for using your printer for about so many pages, and then you can go down and save it. It means that you're only charging them and it's a complete profit to your firm. Sorry, I have someone saying there's no audio. If I could request one of you to confirm if you're also not able to hear me, I would be able to check that at my end. Support team, can you please tell me if you're able to hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I request you to, probably the ones who are not able to hear me or have some problem hearing me, I request you to log off and log back in. Probably you could hear me better. All right. Now, other than that, under new disbursement, now there are a couple of other things that we could go over. One of it is definitely prepayment to disbursement and then the third party consultancy. Now, when you're paying a third party, let's say you've hired a translator or you hired a third party to work on the file, it's so simple that, you could charge your client. Let's say I've hired a translator and I'm going to be charging my client 200 plus taxes, whereas I'm paying them 150 plus taxes. So this way, it is very similar to the general cash other accounts that you used, but at least you're, again, bifurcating it into consultancy expenses, email transfer, and you save it. So when you draw those disbursement journals and ledgers, it is going to be super clear there as to whether it was a miscellaneous expense or unit charges or mileage charges or consultancy. It gets divided into those respective categories, which is more important for you to do when you do your reconciliation. The other disbursement that I'd like to show you all over here is prepayment to disbursement. Now, if you're a real estate lawyer, this is something pretty common for you all. You would have a couple of prepayments to disbursement options, especially when you're paying TerraView and you're disbursing from the deposit you've made, or when you're paying to your software charges and you're disbursing from the same too. So let's say, for example, that you have paid a bulk amount into or a bulk deposit into that specific account. So you can go into accounts and click on action, click on assets, because prepaid account is always an asset. Prepayment to disburse, prepayment and expenses over here. So you would be adding it under prepaid expenses, a little amount that you're putting into the deposit as a deposit into that specific account. So let's say purchased and you can also add in more details. This was probably a wire transfer or an auto debit. I have reference number. Please go ahead and add that and submit it. Sorry, just give me 1 moment. Yeah, got one. Right here, when I can go back into Matter and click on Add New Disbursement, I'm going to do a prepayment to disbursement. I just deposited $300 into my TerraView account. So I'm going to say title search or a registration fee, something that would involve taxes, also prepaid it. A little portion was disallowed. It was not included in taxes. So the disallowed portion was, this was probably 70 and the disallowed portion was 10. This is how it looks. The disallowed expense is nothing but from a total amount, a little portion was disallowed, but is entered against disallowed expense. It is not taxable. So then $70 was pre-tax and 13% on $70 is 9.10, makes it less $10 disallowed, makes it 89.10. Now you have a deposit into your prepaid account, or you could also use it from TerraNet. Now I put it under prepaid account. I remember, I think I didn't put it under TerraNet, but even though it's an expense from TerraNet, let me just do it back again. Okay, Just going to take it out of Terranet because I know that has money in it from my earlier deposit, and save it. Let me go back into accounts to show you all how it works. Prepaid expense. I just want to click on the $300 and change it into Terranet account because that's where we're going to be making the expense. So it goes in there. Now, when I search for Terranet, you will see that both incoming and outgoing $300. And I mean, there's a debit of 300 and credit of 8910, which you will see here, which is what I just made from the matters, which is prepayment to disbursement. Now, you don't have to do it again from the matters side and once again from the accounts, but it is all in one shot if you do it directly from the matter involving prepayment to disbursement, of course. Right here, we also have matters with add new disbursement. Miscellaneous expenses from general, it has no category, unlike the other two that we used. So kindly try to put them under the respective categories. My first to go option would always be pay disbursements from general, cash, other accounts. Then if you know there is anything with payment from trust, you could then use paid from trust. If there's anything with the actual amount, you're 100% sure, you could then do the actuals with billable. And lastly, if there's any payment to third-party consultancy or anything from payment to prepayment to disbursement, you could use that option too. So these are the different options that we just saw that are available for disbursements. And when you look into the journals and ledgers, now let's quickly see that as part of the compliance documents, how it looks whenever you have made your monthly compliances. Now there are ledgers, other ledgers, clients trust, clients general, and then we have general disbursement journal too, and the fee book. These are the 4 documents I would like to show you all. Clients general. Now you know for a fact that we had made some disbursements from general. That includes photocopies or other documents. Just give me one moment. Let me show you that. If I haven't raised an invoice, it wouldn't show from the general. Yeah. First thing, the trust, the $200 that we made from the trust account for the check that was given towards filing. Doesn't have taxes again. When you go back in there, you see that the client account details with the matter information and file number, everything entered in there. When you go back, now clients general came empty. You'll notice that there's nothing in here because whatever I entered, I did not invoice my client. So I'm going to go ahead and invoice, and I'm going to do a partial invoice for only disbursement, not for dockets, because I want to give only disbursement invoice to my client to show them this is what you had incurred on behalf of them, and they're aware of it. Okay, you can download it. Yeah. Now this is the invoice where you have the disbursement all in the next page. The photocopies that we added, printing charges, translator fee, registration fee, everything in here. Total disbursement comes to $426.80, and if you have any amount in there, Your client owes you already a little balance from the past. So all put together, this amount due is entered in here. When you go back into uLaw, now let's say that you click on accounts and I download the same document, which is clients general now, and you will see all of those that you have entered under general will show up here. There you go. Yeah. So disbursement for photocopy, 3390, 5650, 20, 226, and 90. So overall 426.80, but in the past they already owe some balance from your legal fee, I suppose. So altogether is shown under the client's general account. Go back, click on general disbursement, and you will again see the disbursements made from the general account over here. Right? You wouldn't see the $200 that was made from the trust because it goes under the trust disbursement and not the general disbursement. One last thing that I would like to show all of you is the fee book, which is right under the compliance, law society compliances. It will showcase the details such as disbursements made before taxes, the taxes portion, and the total. And the best part is it will also show you any legal fee if you have added into the program. Right now, we have the client information with the description, fee before taxes, after taxes, and total. Also includes the invoice numbers and the matter number for you to review what has been entered in there. Let's go back in there. Just want to show client's trust payments. You'd see the $200 sitting in there. Yeah. With the details such as the method of payment, the check, just highlighting for you all to see who I have paid it to, the matter details, and you also have the disbursement purpose, etc. Everything in over there. Go back in there. Let's just quickly see how this part looks, the ledger. From the expense book, if you have made any expenses today, you'll see that. But I want to show you a clear difference between the expenses you've made. So this expense is nothing but the expense that you have reported under the disbursements. Now, I had recorded, I think, about 5 disbursements in general, but you could only see 4 of them here because one of them, that is, I think, the printer charges, which I used from my office. I did not specifically report the expense because I used my own office printer and I did not report the expense. Hence, you would not see that under the expense book. Reporting expense meaning that you are reporting expenses incurred on behalf of your client from your general account. In this case, only the following expenses were incurred, and the printing charges, even though you have charged your client, wouldn't show under the expense book because you did not report the expense. Now, just for the sake of showing you how it works, let me go back and show you all that the printing charges, you had probably included it under the report expense category now. Earlier, I did not have it. So you can go back into accounts now, click on compliance, monthly compliance, and click on expense book. Let me download what I entered today. Now you would see a fifth line item, which is the $20 for printing charges, which is right here. I'm highlighting for all of you to see it. So the concept behind reporting expense is that it will go into your expense book for you to witness all of this information, not just for you, but for the auditor or for the accountant also. Okay, I think we're there almost to again. Any questions, anyone? I'm also entering the attendance details for all of you to please provide the attendance, and also note down the topic that you can claim credits. It's part 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. And please make sure to note down the topic information to Disbursements Demystified. Love to go over any questions anybody has. Please do let us know. So the important portion for you all to note down here is never ever try to add disbursement along with your legal fee, as it raises too many complicated issues, including the taxes portion and the revenue and income portion. It's always better to maintain the separate value for both legal fee and disbursements. That way you're able to understand which portion is recovered or needs to be recovered from your client. So the recovery part has to be entered under the disbursements tab as add new disbursement, using any of the options that is available there, including both trust or general respectively, and also the details of all of those method of payments, recovery expense part, if there's any profit margin involved or not. If there's any profit margin involved, please do not use the trust portion. That is another key point to remember. Prepayment to disbursements to be used as an asset to disbursement if there's anything that is recorded. Right here, just to wrap up with this part, you can also understand whether the disbursement's gone out of general or your trust by clicking on the general and trust tabs to see what was entered as legal fee and what was entered as disbursement, as it clearly shows you legal fee, $565, disbursements, photocopies, printing charges, translators, registration fee. Altogether, the total amount that is being invoiced to your client, of which was done from trust, was a $200 disbursement, and the trust transfer, if there's anything, all of it shown here as disbursement other pay. I think that's about it, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you joining in for today's session. As uLaw has resumed the webinars, the Friday webinars, I request each and every one of you to share the word with your friends, and please do join us for more CPD sessions, for more useful topics. Every alternate Friday, every other Friday, we do hold some CPD webinars, with some interesting topics in between too. Request all of you to register for your regular updates and reminders. For the recording, it will be available on our YouTube channel latest by Monday. And do subscribe for the YouTube channel. For the interest of time, just going to stop recording here, and I'm going to take the chat on for another 15 minutes. Please do inform any questions, anything related to this topic, or like this topic too. I'd be happy to share any idea about what I have in this topic too. Do use the chat window. I'm just going to enter the attendance link once more for ones who join later. Kindly give your attendance so that if you have any issues in the future, we would be able to help you to identify the webinar information. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.